I am at a different place than normal today. If you can see me, then you've obviously realized that I am at Higher Ed PodCon. Yes, the podcasting convention for those that are in higher education. Because I work with Cuyahoga Community College. And today, I am talking with not one, but two people that run two separate podcast companies, but they also host a podcast together. This is entertaining as all get out. You are going to want to stay tuned. Neil, Jen.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. This is our first interview.
No, it's not, is
no one's ever interviewed us.
Together? Really?
Together, no. Unless you've
Maybe
been doing
you're right.
solo interviews, I don't know.
Oh, this is good.
Wow.
Are you cheating on me with other people?
It was my other co-host.
Whoa.
This is good. Okay. So yeah, now that we've already started the fight. So you've got 20 years in performance marketing, things of that nature. I believe, we're filming this just to give people context at Higher Ed PodCon. I just sat back there and did the control board for two of your guys' episodes.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Hey, no, you guys are awesome. It's the reason why I asked you guys to come in here. I mean, truly it is. I believe in one of the shows you mentioned you have a background in radio, correct, Jen?
As Neil cringes behind me.
One, I think in all of the episodes.
Whoa. I don't think we're going to be co-hosts after this.
It's like a
podcast.
drinking game. It's the drinking studies drinking game.
It's the drink. I love
Take
this.
a shot when Jen says she used to be in radio.
You're just jealous.
I am actually, but I've learned a lot from your radio background.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I love, once again, I am pulling the pin and tossing the grenade and just walking away.
And that's how continuing studies ended after the show.
Right. This will be their last.
To 100. We're at 80 something. We got to get to 100.
Yeah. It may be solo shows, but with that, you guys both have successful podcast production agencies. Mm-hmm. And yet you do a podcast together, which is counterintuitive to 99% of business owners out there to be like, hey, you do some of the same thing that I do. We're going to go ahead and do that together about something like, why? How did this start? What happened here? Something either went really well or something went askew for the two of you to be like, yeah, let's do this together.
We met at Podcast Movement in Dallas, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And we had each mutually met someone else at the show. And then from Cleveland, which is funny. Yeah. And
we're not making this up.
We're not making this up. And he was like, oh, and you're both from Vancouver. Oh, and you work on university higher education podcasts. Oh, you said to me, you need to meet Jen. And then Jen, you need to meet Neil. And we met each other. And I had been thinking about doing this podcast. And I was like, Jen, and then I found out Jen's background and all that kind of stuff. I thought, well, why don't we just do this together?
Her background in radio.
Yeah, her background in radio. Exactly. Actually, that is true.
And that's why he wanted to do the podcast with me, though.
Plus, Jen edits as well, too. So she does all of our editing. So Kylie, kind of our producer, sort of takes an early run at it. And then Jen engineers it. And so that was, it kind of worked for the two of us to do it together. And we work on some projects together as well. But we also have our separate companies too.
That makes sense. Now I'm going to ask, do you have the same story?
Yes.
You can corroborate most of what he said.
It's very similar to like how I envisioned it. He's not like embellishing it. All I know is that we did go to a bar together, and I remember that. And we celebrated my birthday because at midnight it happened.
It was your birthday, yeah.
And you held a candle, like one of those, like, wasn't a candle or a torch. It was like, you guys all had like I don't know.
Sparkler.
So just so I can make this weird, some people like have drunk times and they end up with babies. You guys ended up with a podcast.
That's right.
We did. And we lived like surprisingly close to each other. Because you got to remember, we were in Dallas. We were probably like 1 out of 5 Canadians in a sea of thousands of Americans.
Yeah.
And the fact that we found each other and we're both pretty nice collaborative people, I would say, because like he even said, the guy matching us, he's like, you guys might be competitors. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to meet Neil. And then we went for our first coffee back in Vancouver. And I don't know, we never saw it as competition. Like we do a lot of the same stuff, and we do use a lot of sometimes the same team members as well, because like some of his staff has worked on my stuff, and I don't know, it's just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
It's funny. I find that with a lot of podcast production companies, because I mean, I know there's going to be things that we do very differently than you guys do, and things that we cover that you guys aren't going to want to, because there's some stuff, like there's stuff that I truly enjoy about podcasting. There's other stuff where I'm like, I want absolutely nothing to do with that whatsoever. So no, I totally understand that. Neil, you've like higheredpods.com. Like, instead of like, let's just put some podcasts out there and maybe let's make a list of the top 5. No, it's 1,600.
Yeah, and growing. We've got a whole bunch we're going to put into it.
I remember when there was one.
I think what we like through working with some university higher education podcasts, we just sort of identified there's an opportunity for discovery, but also to put them all together and create this library, which we have, and we've got a bunch of plans for it actually. So we think we can create sort of an edit. Our next thing we're going to do is try to create an editorial layer. So as well as a listening app component to it as well too. So that's kind of where we've gotten it. But yeah, it's been a fun project.
What's interesting is, so like we work with a lot of companies in terms of that marketing return on investment. When you're talking to and working with colleges, universities, there's a different, it's not like a normal, like, hey, transactional business. You're asking someone to come for 4 years, or whether to get like, what's the difference in approach between, and I'm going to ask this of both of you, like, because I'm sure both of you have different approaches for this. Like, what's a different approach with a higher education facility or an education facility than your standard, like, automotive shop down the road or a lawyer?
You go first, Jen.
Yeah, because you just don't want to answer the question.
No, I'm going to have a better answer, so I just thought I'd let you go first.
Well, right off the bat, I think it's just the process, and there's way many more hands that the podcast has to go through. So when you're working with a higher education institute, they don't really want you to obviously make their name sound bad. So they're really worried, even though they have a hand in the process. But it usually has to go through like 7 people to check it before it gets published, opposed to when I've worked with other companies in different spaces, there's usually maybe only one person checking. Or like I've had it too, where they're like, cool, you just do it for us, and we put it up and we trust you, and don't break that trust.
Sure.
That would be the difference for me.
Makes sense. What about for you, Neil?
Well, I think ultimately it's the reason for being for the podcast, the mission, if you will, and predominantly the vast majority of higher education podcasts that we work with or have come across are more mission driven. They're not they're not revenue focused. They're not there to make money. And I think the difference with a branded if they're a branded podcast, like your example, is it's not about building the brand or a sales funnel or something like that. Yeah, from a university's perspective, it is, the brand's important, and they are trying to take their brand out to a wider community in some cases, but it's still not technically a branded podcast. And so I think that is what to me, the big difference is, that reason for being.
I'm glad you had time to think of that answer, because it was pretty good.
And now you can see why they're co-hosts. Like, when you talk about that, though, what is the return on investment for them with a podcast?
It really depends. Like, let's take an alumni podcast, for example. that's not necessarily about constant growth, because your alumni, if it's, it's focused on alumni, your alumni is only as much as the audience is only as much as the alumni is, right? Mm-hmm. And so in a lot of cases, an alumni podcast is more about engagement with the alumni. So an ROI metric for an alumni podcast might be more, this is a way that we can make a connection with a hard to connect alumnus. So like, we've been trying to get a hold of Sarah. She's like this great CEO. She's really busy, and she hasn't really, we haven't been able to, our engagement officer hasn't been able to connect with her. Let's get her on the podcast. And so it's not about how many people listen to it. It's about that initial connection point, and then from there, the relationship can start, and off they go. It could be like from a faculty, and so then that could be just about taking the great research that's happening in that school and sharing that and sharing that wider. It could be a student podcast, which is part of their process, part of their learning, or that could be a student process, which is a podcast, which is about learning how to podcast. So there's all different, it could be and pedagogy. It could be part of the syllabus.
You've been waiting to use that word, haven't you?
Yeah,
I like that word. Could be part of the syllabus. Josh, the one that's really interested me a lot as of late, we've had a few more episodes about it lately, is podcast as a scholarly output. And I think that's a really interesting, that's a really interesting thing that's happening in academia right now, as the currency of academia, if you will, is built around the monograph, the written thing. So podcasting sort of lives in this digital output, if you will, which is not a monograph. And so I think, academia is struggling with, well, how is my scholarly output? How do I get credit for my scholarly output? How does that add to my potential tenure? How does that add to, I have tenure, I'm expected to have research every year, so that's another really interesting thing, and we're seeing that's going on right now in higher education podcasting.
You seeing the same things? Or you see something different?
I stole them all.
I was about to say, to me, the dynamic that you two have is great, because it's the same thing for like Chrissy and I on the Business Fix. It's different view. It's you see things the same way, but you get there from very different points.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
I've seen a lot what he has seen, but I've seen some other ones too, and they're not necessarily podcasts that I worked on, but I've talked to other institutions I do other podcasts for, and it was interesting because some of the teachers will also have their own podcasts, but the purpose for it is not necessarily to obviously go to the masses. It's stuff for their classrooms, but even they'll go one step further and get the students to create their own podcasts, even though the class has nothing to do with communication. It's because they said it's a way that they can combat AI, because it's fine for AI to write things for you, but you still need to comprehend it and be able to verbally say it out. So then they're able to see who understood the coursework and who did not. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it, because once again, how we get information out is changed maybe a little bit in the past couple of months.
A little bit.
And there's someone that Neil and I met from Stanford, another conference, that she was a professor, and she would get the kids that she taught podcasting, like the art of storytelling. And they had nothing to do necessarily with going on to be broadcasters or anything like that. They were just taking this as an extra course. But what she would get them to do is make a podcast and tell their story. And she said without her telling them anything, they would actually go take their podcast after they finish their project and use it to apply for jobs and get a job with it, because it's like the new resume. Yeah. So I thought that was really neat.
Good
too.
work, Jed.
Yeah, that's a great way to do that.
This is why you have me.
That and your radio background.
Yeah.
You're also radio, right? Or you were broadcasting? No, I thought you were. You got great radio voice.
Thank you. But no, I have no background in that.
You're just natural.
My career path was, like I said, it was like someone was drunk. I started in performance automotive. I went to regular automotive. I went to agriculture. I went to trucking to podcasting.
Yeah, that's natural.
Yeah. You can see that. You can see how the steps work
You can
there.
see the progression.
Yeah, you can. It's just there's like a gap in there of like where the hell did this come from? You guys, I mean, you mentioned 88 episodes. And
I can't believe we even have that many.
it's good. You're like, wow, we're old now.
We didn't break up.
We've made 88 episodes. Oh my God. Right. We've made it. We finally made it. That being said, you guys have you've interviewed a wide range of people, like academics that are running like true crime and cold case shows. I mean, you've talked to people that are just purely in like the academic realm that just want to release papers. Mm-hmm. There's a gamut of like a wide spectrum because everyone thinks it's just going to be teachers. Mm-hmm. What's been the most surprising thing that you guys have pulled out of this? And I'll let you start on this one, Jen.
Oh, why? Because Neil can make a better answer up after me.
Do you want him to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, Neil, go ahead. Go first.
I think the thing that surprises me is I just keep being surprised by new ideas. Like it's like, oh wow, that's a great way to use a podcast. That's a great use of it. I think that's one of the things. I think another one is. There's the output of the podcast, and I ran through a bunch of reasons a few minutes ago, but then there's the actual practice of podcasting. I guess Jen was kind of talking about it just now, but like it's like the benefit to doing a podcast, which is beyond what the output is, and there's so many of these intangibles, and there's so many of these useful things. I think so that always surprises me too. Of just like this, like it's more than just that output. It's just like there's so much more of a benefit to doing it just by doing it.
Sure.
Mine would be the topics because there's things that I didn't think could be a podcast.
Yeah.
like we talked to Yale. I think it's in an early set of our episodes, and they had
Yale
a podcast.
Publishing.
Yeah, and it was just about art books. And there was
Yale
no visual.
Publishing, like the big, huge coffee table, beautiful art books.
No kidding.
There's a podcast about it.
And there's no
not
visual.
a video podcast.
There's no video to it. And they just talk about art books. And it's a very popular podcast.
And architecture books. And again, like coffee table books that you would think you would need to see. And it's a great podcast. And it really makes, and once you kind of dig into it, it really makes sense.
But see, my brain instantly goes when you say these big coffee table books, Kramer on Seinfeld talking about the coffee table book that he was making, which is a whole nother thing. But
I forgot about that episode.
Yes. Yeah. In that, like so many schools, I mean, there's big brands involved with these.
Yeah.
In working with them, I know you said it has to go through the 7 layers of approval. Mm-hmm. Podcasting in a lot of cases is, I don't want to say considered risky. How do you feel that they approach that in a way that makes it so it's not risky to the brand? Is it the 7 layers or is it
I think it's hard because I think some are detrimental than others, because like some institutions are so strict on what they want, and sometimes that does not benefit the content. And then I think other times, they'll do the 7 layers and like it's okay because the people trust and it's a quick process. I think, again, having a team that you trust, either hiring people like Neil and I to work with the existing people in the comms department, can kind of get rid of maybe some of those layers. But it's really trying to find the people you trust and also how much you trust the team that you have in-house working on it, I think, too. Because I think some have gotten easier over the years, too, on certain ones. And especially when you've been doing the podcast with them for a long time, they're like, oh, okay, that trust is there. And it's not going through as many people.
Makes sense. I want to add something from your measure twice, cut once.
Oh, you really did your research on here.
I don't walk into these blind.
I don't think Neil knows about measure twice, cut once.
I've heard the saying before.
I usually cut once and then measure again and realize it was wrong.
It's too late. You got to go back to the hardware store.
Right. What's the crossover from something like a home builder to a college podcast? Like, what are the things that are in common, I guess I would say, with those?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because, like, once again, it's for a home builders association. So it's not necessarily you're not advertising Bob's construction company.
No.
It's a home builders association. So I feel like there's got to be some crossover, but I don't know what it necessarily is with those.
Well, we're technically advertising many different types of Bob's construction companies.
Okay,
sure. The Home Builders Association. So the Home Builders Association of Vancouver, and I feel like this relates to a lot of different podcasts, and maybe not even just higher ed, but they had an issue like most during COVID. They are a nonprofit membership-based group. So the idea is in Vancouver, in Canada, which you would have in the States too, a lot of builders and people in the industry are maybe not that truthful and that great, and they'll run through the night with your deposit. So the Home Builders Association is there, and they have members that are trusted members to build or renovate your home. But you pay for that stamp of approval, and they also give you other things in your membership, like different courses, there's different credits you have to take always to make sure your skills are up to date. But not only that, they create networking opportunities. They also promote you at home shows. But, that thing that happened in 2020, COVID, a lot of things stopped. And so what did we stop doing? Stop going to home shows and stop doing events. So how do you give your members value when they're still paying for their membership? And the memberships still need to be paid because there's an office staff and everything like that too.
They got to stay in business too.
So we created Measure Twice, Cut Once, which has been amazing for them. So they've been doing it 6 years now, and it's still their top marketing tool. We didn't think it would be something that would go past COVID, but what they do is they have all their different members on, and we talk about how to build or renovate your home right the first time. But kind of what Neil was saying before is it kind of humanizes these people, and it makes them connect with you. So a lot of the Bob's the Builders that have come on, they have gotten jobs from the podcast. That was not the goal.
I picture the cartoon with the
hat on it. Bob the Builder.
I know. That wasn't the point of the podcast, but it's great value now for the member because the member has gone on. They've gotten jobs from the podcast. They're most likely to renew their membership, right? Not only that, they're able to give out their knowledge, learn from each other. We've had celebrity attention like Brian Baumler on, so they're aware of the types of things we do. We've had government attention, which was super important for them because the rules and regulations. So it's much more than just listens and a podcast for them. It gets their brand out to a newer audience too, because a lot of people didn't know, like my age group didn't know about the Home Builders Association because they give you like an old school Yellow Pages book of all the members. And none of us are going to look at that when we need to find a contractor. And so
someone said Rolodex to me the other day, and they're like, "Do you know what that is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember the Rolodex."
I date myself by saying Yellow Pages, but it's okay. So it's been really useful too. So going back to academia, and going to the universities and doing the similar thing. Again, it all comes down to your purpose of why you're doing it and why you want to do the podcast. So I think there's a lot of crossover in many areas of the podcast.
Interesting. That's I love that, and it really does. It finds a way to connect them, and that common ground. The interesting thing, you guys are looking at some podcasting 2.0 stuff, correct? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have a follow-up question to this too. That is going to be the banger question for you. Is so like what is your thoughts on podcasting 2.0 moving forward? Like what's the motivator for you guys to look at that and test some of that stuff?
Well, I just think there's so much opportunity to enrich the actual podcast. There's so many things you can do with it, and then beyond just the listening. So from a higher education perspective, some of the tags that you can use can there's kind of fit into higher education. So there's an importance for citing people in research, for example. You got the person tag, or there's a discovery issue that you've got the pod follow, the follow tag. So there's transcripts. Transcripts are super important for a lot of institutions from an accessibility perspective.
Sure.
So it's really important to put that in chapters. So there's the added features that you can add to your podcast, I think are super interesting and important. And they fit nicely into a lot of the academic higher education world as well too.
I think I really like and I haven't done too much on this, but I really like the transparency of it too, because I know with analytics, that's something they're trying to change is like right now, so many analytics are walled and like locked up.
And terrible.
The fact that, people will be able to see analytics and judge themselves instead of having to be like, can I know what your numbers are or anything like that?
Yeah. Open too, right? I mean,
open,
I just think like back to your walled garden comment, open academia, open access.
Sure.
It goes back to the RSS feed. Walled garden is against it. It's like you lose portability, you lose control.
Right.
And so I think if we want open access to academia, we need to really stand behind and support the RSS feed. And then you have this 2.0 layer, which sort of goes over top, which adds all this extra functionality and whatnot that you can do too. So
it's interesting. And the piece that I find so interesting about it is like podcasting 2.0 is this, I don't want to call it mushy or squishy, but it's not 100% formed. It's not the standard tradition. And you guys being involved in it, to me, is very, very forward thinking. And on the flip side of that, I'm going to call you out on this. The first 2 video podcasts you guys have ever done were the ones that I just recorded. And so to me, I want to ask you guys, like from a video perspective, I don't want to say that you guys don't think it's important, you hate it or anything like that. But what's been the decision to say, we're a podcast, we're an audio podcast, we're not going after video? That's the question that I want to look at with that. Instead, this isn't a gotcha. I kind of want to make fun of you guys a little bit for it.
But I think
I've pushed for video podcasts, and you and I have had a discussion about it.
Am I throwing grenades again?
I think we could. I think this may be our entry point into
our gateway drug.
This might be our gateway into video. But I don't think that podcasting 2.0 rests and falls on video. I think that's a component there.
I feel there's it's different too.
There's a lot of podcasts out there that are embracing a lot of the 2.0 tags and are not video.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I think you could do that. I mean, you could have, in theory, you could have a really interesting audio podcast and use chapters as visuals, right? Because the chapter tag isn't just the chapter from a time and what it's called. A chapter tag can also be an image that would go at that point in time. So you could actually have an audio podcast and we could be talking about something and Apple even recognizes it. And you can have that image come up at that certain chapter point. So fair enough. I think your point about video is fair. And when, we've talked about it for sure. And I think we want to try to do more and more video.
It's just, to me, what's interesting about it too, though, is like you guys doing what you do shows that you can be successful without it. And that it really stamps home that point. You can be successful and forward thinking without it. Like for us, for me, I've pushed for it from the beginning because the first podcast I ever edited, the guy was doing video via Zoom calls back in 2018. And that's how he was posting it into YouTube and things of that nature. So I came at it from video first before I ever looked at the audio side, whereas you came at it from the audio side. Yeah. I believe you have a background in radio.
I'm never gonna live this down. I'm
You're
gonna
not.
have to like get
You're
rid
not.
of my credentials on LinkedIn.
Just randomly on LinkedIn about once a month, I'm going to send you a message about radio. No, that.
Hey, but I've actually been like on radio, and
I know you
like,
have.
I'm, I'm legit.
You 100% are. But just the fact that he razzed you a little bit about
What
it earlier
radio
today.
stations have you guys been on? I'm just saying.
Never.
I've called into a few.
That doesn't count.
That's the only other thing I guess I would
Sounds on
say
the news.
is the Cleveland Cavaliers, the basketball team. I did a voiceover for something that was played over the PA.
Cool.
And there's nothing cooler than hearing your voice boom over the speakers of an yeah, it was pretty cool. Nonetheless, if you guys, and the cool thing is too, is you guys see a bunch of podcasters all the time.
Yeah.
What is the one mistake that you see everyone making where you're like, just stop?
Oh, I have a list.
Okay, you go first then.
Please don't ever use a computer microphone.
That's one of mine also. Yes.
Like USB mics are not that much money if you're going to go out and especially if you're in the academic space and you're speaking all the time and you're doing presentations, it is worth the investment, even if you're not doing a podcast. So please okay. Now also, please never say, that's a great question. We know it's a great question. I asked it, but don't.
What's wrong with that? I like that.
Because then you
ask a question and someone says to me, "That's a great question." I feel good when I hear that.
Yeah, but you don't need to say that. We know we're not dumb. We know
Okay, fine.
That's a great question.
So don't say to Jen, "Good question," but say to Neil, "Good question."
Neil needs affirmation.
Neil needs affirmation.
We know it's a good question because why would you be the person interviewing if it wasn't a good question?
Okay, well, that's an interesting one.
So I'm assuming, Neil, you're going to say you should always encourage your host as a guest, right? What?
No, I agree. I agree with you about the sound thing. Especially with the script and other programs like that, where you literally can push a button to fix some of that and take the tinny away and so on and so forth. I think we do a tune-up process. So we've kind of built over the years. We've kind of built this process where we'll take an existing podcast and maybe they've hit a bit of a plateau. They've been around for a while, or they launched 3 or 4 years ago and they didn't really kind of like launch properly. And so we take them through a tune-up, and there's some basics that just amaze me that I see over and over again in higher education, especially. So just picking your category for your podcast, they go education. But it's not. It
could be a science podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just putting themselves in the wrong category. And so you're telling Apple and Spotify, to categorize yourself wrong, kind of a thing. So there's just all these little, use episode cover art and your show cover art. Make sure for Apple, you've got the bespoke Apple version of your show art. Like there's a lot of basics to set up. Like the category one is a great example. That's a 10-second fix. It's not like a big fix, but the knock on for in the apps and everything like that. So I just think there's some people. This is actually where Jen and I work really well together. So her background is more on the engineering side and the production, the actual thing.
Speaking.
Sure. I come from more of a tech background. So I've built apps and websites and all this kind of stuff. So I come at it from that perspective. So I think about you should have a good website, and it doesn't need to have there's so many tools out there for your show website, but it's inexcusable, I think, if you're on Buzzsprout and your show is like continuingstudies.buzzsprout.com and you're living in the Buzzsprout world. So I just think there's some of those basics that you set up that you should really sort of get all that stuff right. So I think that's my answer.
Yeah. Jumping onto that one, people just discount the setup because they're like, oh, it's so easy. I can just get it up onto YouTube and Spotify with, like you said, one of the platforms. But it's not that easy because when Neil and I look at it, we actually see, and we've done this for one of my clients that were here, we did a tune-up package, and it's like, actually, you're not on half of these players, because you gotta remember too,
That's the biggest one. Yeah.
podcasts are listened to worldly. Yes, Apple and Spotify are predominant in Canada and the US, but it might not be in other places. So we got to forget that, because I know different podcasts of audiences that aren't just necessarily here.
Yep.
And so the thing is, when we look at the analytics, I know Neil has too, you'll see like Pocket Casts and other ones that maybe you're not super familiar with. And people are like, oh, wait, I have a huge listenership on that. Why? And it's like, you don't want to cut your audience out. Everyone just is like, oh, I only want to be on Apple and Spotify and YouTube. And it's like, well, maybe your listeners, like maybe you're a very niche podcast and they don't listen on those.
Yeah, they could be on any one of the number of apps. I mean, so many people just think of the top 2 or 3. And that's all they go with.
And if you're paying for a hosting platform, it's no extra money to add your RSS feed to it. Like, put them on as many as you can.
Yeah, fully distribute.
This has been entertaining as hell. When you guys were in the studio, like after the first podcast yesterday, I'm like, oh, I think I can rile them both up and make this entertaining as hell. And that's, yes. Please.
We're gonna leg wrestle after.
Weird. Okay. I don't know. We're having a talk when we get back to Vancouver. It's gonna be a breakup talk.
I was hoping that this podcast wasn't going to break you, but I thought there was a chance. That being said, where can people find you? Tell them all the places.
Well, we're on other players except Spotify and Apple, because Neil has set us up properly.
Well, you personally, where can you find you?
Yeah, where can we find you too?
If people want to get a hold of Jen, where do you go?
Where do they get a hold of Jen?
Oh yeah, they can follow me on my Instagram, J Lee Gunson, LinkedIn. Follow me, Jennifer Lee Gunson. My website, jpodcreations.com. That has all of them. Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Neil?
LinkedIn's a great one. I love LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and then email, I guess, neil@podiumpodcasts.com.
Wonderful. Both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah,
you never get interviewed. This is like...
Good.
This is our gateway into video and getting interviewed.
Well, I think we need to be on more podcasts.
Absolutely.
Our own.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Good.
That being said, I will be back in just a bit with a summary.
Thank you.
What's my summary for all of this? First off, I am out of breath after that. Those two, they're entertaining, they're energetic. They truly are like phenomenal people. And this is one of the things that I love, first off, about podcasting conferences. We kind of do the same things. We aren't acting like we're in competition with each other. We all know that there's plenty of podcasts out there for us to all work on. We want to make sure that we learn from each other, and we want to make sure that we do things that podcasting as a whole gets better, that we know things like podcasting 2.0, like the analytics, there's other tags, things like that. When that comes in, that will be a help for the industry as a whole. And although it may hurt that top 1%, it's going to help so many other people get found and discovered. And that's something that we're all looking forward to. Additionally, the fact that they've got a kind of specialty with some of the higher education stuff, it really makes a difference when you know how to navigate some of those things. We do a number of legal podcasts. We do a number of financial podcasts. We figured out how to navigate those realms and how to speak that language. Additionally, we do some automotive podcasts. We do some power sports podcasts. We are working to make sure that we know how to navigate those things and how to speak the right language for the people that they are trying to target. We want to make sure that we are helping people get better all the time. And one of the reasons why I was so quick to yesterday when they were here in the studio and they recorded, I saw that they are trying to do the same exact thing. They are trying to help people. They are genuinely good people. They are genuinely nice people. And I don't just say that because they're Canadians. They truly are genuinely nice people. I thoroughly enjoyed working with them this weekend, and I am looking forward to working with them in the future. That all being said, I hope you took something from today. Do me a favor. Take care of yourself. If you can, take care of someone else too. I will see you very, very soon.